So continuing with the emerging science and technology, we will go into the emerging technology of genetically modified crops. Genetically modified crops is not a new introduction in India. It's not a new technology in India also, but the demand of the genetically modified food definitely has increased. Along with that, the problems in the society, like I am suffering from allergy, don't know what is the reason. The controversy, there is a controversy regarding various forms of genetically engineered crops. Now, we in India has a body, it is called Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee. From the name, you can understand that it is an appraisal committee. That means its work is to check the quality standards of the genetically modified crops. In foreign countries, on genetically modified crop, there is a branding, there is a labeling. In the sense, you will find what a kind of, like you have vegetarian, non-vegetarian symbol, vegetarian products would be marked as square green with a green dot, and the non-veg products will be marked as, what is the marking for the non-vegetarian?
Red.
Red, not brown. Okay, deep brown square with a deep brown dot. In the same manner, in other countries like America, European countries, the genetically modified food is marked like GM, so that customers know that this is a genetically modified brinjal, this is a genetically modified capsicum. But certain kind of things, that kind of things are not there in India. So we have GEAC, or Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, to look into that. GEAC functions under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Exchange, MOEFCCs. The committee has a work. It keeps on appraising and approves GM crops in India, subject to the final approval of the government. So it will first approve, then send it to the government, and the government has to give a nod. The ministry has to give a nod finally. This is the work. Now, today, there is a controversy growing on the commercial cultivation of herbicide-tolerant GM mustard, genetically modified mustard. Mustard is basically, is a herb which produces yellow flowers, and then you get mustard seeds. But this mustard we are talking about, it is herbicide tolerant, means you can cultivate this mustard and spray certain herbicide, it will not die, other herbs will die. So the controversy is raised on this. We will understand what is that. What is GM crop? GM means genetically modified. It is a technology in which we introduce a DNA into the genome of an organism. Genome means the chromosome. किसी के क्रोमोसोम के अंदर और कोई फॉरेन जीन डाल दिया जाता है. The common example that we see is BT toxin. BT toxin, I hope you know. Anyone can tell me what is BT toxin?
से जो बाइगण
हाँ, correct. Genetically modified बाइगण जो हुए छे, किंतु what is that exactly? Actually, BT means Bacillus thuringiensis. Bacillus thuringiensis is a bacteria. It produces a kind of chemical which causes paralysis in the animal nerves. ये animal nerve गुड़ा को paralyze कर दिए, सेथिपाई ताको, it is a toxin, and it is called as BT toxin. Now, in case of many plants, jemti rice hela, kimba brinjal hela, this Bacillus thuringiensis genome, the chromosome, which produces BT toxin, is introduced into that genome of the new plant. Result, whatever plant you will be getting, it would be resistant to pest, because when the pest will attack, each cell of the brinjal plant, brinjal का हर एक सेल वही टॉक्सिन प्रोड्यूस करता रहेगा, और when the insect bites it, it will get paralyzed, वो नीचे गिर जाएगा, and then the ant and maybe the birds, they will eat them. So this is an example of genetically modified genome introduction. So in GM crops, genome or a DNA is transferred into the plant cell, and then with the tissue culture, the plants are developed, and then subsequently the seeds are produced. This is not a new technology. It has been going on for last 30 years plus. GM curves are, since their genome is modified, उनका chromosome को बदल दिया जाता है, they have new and different characteristics. The characteristics are quite different than the original one, and they show resistance to particular type of a disease or maybe environmental condition. Like we have known about the drought resistant rice which can grow in the drought soil. ମରୁଡ଼ି ଭଳିଆ ପରିସ୍ଥିତିରେ ମଧ୍ୟ କମ ପାଣିରେ grow କରିପାରିବ. Flood resistant variety. So they can tolerate any particular disease or an environmental condition. Now, the argument which supports GM crops are many, because it is going to yield more produce. Just basic फसल बाहरिबो. We can fight with the hunger of the growing billions of India. But there are certain arguments against. It may cause genetic contamination, okay, in the other living species. I'm going to give an example. For example, you see that suppose I told you about the food, the brinjal, which is attacked by a pest. Now the pest dies then and there only. इसी पेस्ट को जो बर्ड खाएगा, now it is entering that genetically modified organism or genome is entering into the food chain of the bird, and from the bird it will be transferred to another animal. There it may bring certain chemical and biological changes. जैसे कि it's a very common complaint with the biotechnologically modified crop is that they cause foodborne allergies. So which I may be suffering, I'm not very sure. I know very well that if I take a BT brinjal, biotechnologically modified brinjal, I develop allergy conditions. Well, actually, BT brinjal is very easy to spot. It does not have seeds. It is just like flesh, doesn't have insect attack. It is very, very shiny on its coat. So these are the modified seeds. Now it is entering into human food chain and causing many allergy disorders. Now I told about BT toxin, how BT toxin can kill a pest. जिस तरह ये कीड़े को मार सकता है, उसी तरह बटरफ्लाई को भी मार सकता है. Now butterfly we know is very, very important for the purposes of pollination. Honeybee is very much important for the purposes of pollination. अगर बीटी टॉक्सिन को यूज करके जेनेटिकली मॉडिफाइड क्रॉप को कल्टीवेट करके हमारा बटरफ्लाई पॉपुलेशन घट जाएगा, अगर हमारे हनी बी के पॉपुलेशन घट जाएंगे, सो टुमारो वी विल हैव शॉर्टेजेस इन द फूड. आपको आर्टिफिशियली पॉलिनेट करना पड़ेगा, हाथ में पकड़ पकड़ कर हर एक फूल को पॉलिनेट करना पड़ेगा, which is labor consuming. Okay, report have been found that GM has caused harm to butterfly population in American soil. Any toxicity in the genetically modified seeds may contaminate in the food stock at a molecular level. It has long-term concerns like it may create antibiotic resistance. So common antibiotics will not work on the patient. It can create cancer and reproductive malfunctions. People will not be able to reproduce properly. And cancer is a very common thing, okay? Now it is happening that in metropolitan areas, mostly we mark that healthy people with no history of any type of disease suddenly catch cancer. ना वो tobacco खाते हैं, ना और कुछ खाते हैं, अचानक से cancer हो जाता है, and maybe because of that they may die. So this is a GM crop. Not only that, it is also designed for farmers exploitation. How farmers exploitation? ये जो genetically modified crop, one of the major companies of the world is Monsanto, USA. A Monsanto corporation and many other companies like Monsanto, what they do, they create, such kind of seeds which are genetically modified. Now, farmers have a habit of converting 10% of their produce into seeds. ଗୋଟେ farmer ଯେତିକି କ୍ଷତି କରେ ନା ସେଥିରୁ 10% କାଢି ଦିଏ ଏବଂ ସେଥିରୁ ମଞ୍ଜି ବିହନ ତିଆରି କରେ, the best variety. Now, these brinjals or these vegetable you will put, they will give a fruit, but you can't collect seeds from them. उनसे आपको seed नहीं मिलेगा. So if you don't have the seed, then next time you have to buy seed from the company. So this is designed in such a manner कि आपको हमेशा उस कंपनी के ऊपर आपको डिपेंडेंट बना दे. You will have to purchase seeds from them again and again. So this is an economic burden on exclusively the small and marginal farmers जिनके पास पैसे उतने ज्यादा नहीं होते. Okay, so this would be a problem for them. Let us see what more. Genetic modification refers to alteration of the genes of a living being by inserting into it. It alters the structure of the DNA. It enables us to produce plants and animals with desired attributes. Okay, this part is understood by all of you. One of the ways is looking at is tissue culture. Tissue culture is growing a plant using vegetative tissue. तो जेनेटिकली मॉडिफाई करने के बाद सेल्स को टिश्यू कल्चर मीडियम में ग्रो किया जाता है, उसको फुल प्लांट बना दिया जाता है, उसी प्लांट में से जो सीड निकलता है उसी सीड को बेचा जाता है. So this is about genetic modification technology. Any doubt? Anyone has got any doubt in any regard? जल्दी जल्दी बता दो, otherwise I'll move. अरे yes कि नहीं कह दियो तो आगो जीवा.
No sir.
So if you understand what is genetical modification, now you will see the future of GM crops in India, how GM crops are doing in India and what may happen in future. GM crops have present themselves in most of the common cultivated products like 1. Tobacco. Tobacco is the first genetically modified crop in the world, जिसको कि introduce किया गया था to reduce the pungent taste of the tobacco. तंबाकू पत्र रो जो स्मेल टा बाजे स्मेल सेटा को कमेबा पई ताको genetically modify करा जायथला. Tomato is the first GM food crop of the world. Tomato is the first GM food crop of the world, and this tomato was named as flavor saver, FLAVR flavor saver. मतलब इसका फ्लेवर कभी खराब नहीं होता, ये मोटा रहता है. It has a thick skin and it does not dry on the shelves. आप उसको जितना भी रखो वो सूखता नहीं है, सड़ता नहीं है. This is flavor saver. Third is BT brinjal. BT brinjal is the first GM food crop in India. There have been many agitation against BT brinjal introduction in India. आपको नहीं कि बहुत बड़े आंदोलन भी है against the government. Then first commercial GM crop in India is BT cotton. Okay, this BT cotton was introduced in India also. In Odisha also it was introduced in the areas of Balangir where you have black soil. So then comes the GM mustard. The GM mustard is a GM crop awaiting its approval in India. Now coming back to the topic of main discussion, that is GM mustard. We know that we have a department called as FSSAI, Food Safety and Security Authority of India Limited. This organization is responsible for maintaining the quality of the food. GM crop can benefit, no doubt. The first argument that goes in favor of GM crop is that they can provide food security, no doubt. Yes, the production will be high, people will have food. Not only that, the loss which is happening due to pest attack, due to attack of pest, due to attack of diseases, that will be less. Our bright example is success of BT cotton in India. India is now has become one of the biggest nations exporting cotton to the world because of the genetically modified cotton into cotton exporting, where the net importer of cotton it used to be. In case of edible oil, India is a net importer of edible oil. मतलब हम जितना ऑयल प्रोड्यूस करते हैं हमारे देश में सफिशिएंट नहीं होता, इसीलिए हमें बाहर से आमदनी करना पड़ता है. And it is India's third biggest import item. Cultivation of GM mustard will first increase the oil seed production in the country. लोग और ज्यादा मस्टर्ड प्रोड्यूस कर पाएंगे. GM crops are environment friendly. They reduce the farmers' dependency on pesticide. Yes, farmers have to use chemical pesticide otherwise, जो कि GM crop में करना नहीं पड़ता. That's a benefit. Okay, safety. Most of the companies follow the safety norms prescribed by WHO and FAO, World Health Organization, and Food and Agriculture Organization. उनके जो safety guideline है वो मानते हैं. And it has been concluded that food derived from biotechnology are safe and sometimes are nutritious. Sometimes are nutritious because उसमें pest attack नहीं होता. A common misbelief is that बाइगण रे जदि पोक लगी से बाइगणटा भारी भल बाइगण कहीं पोक मान को जना था कोठी भल अच्छी. Okay, so this is like a layman's argument. Don't fall the trap into that. The truth is that the layman may not be knowing that it is a genetically modified crop, or there may be pesticide applied on that particular, not applied on that particular brinjal variety. So anyway, okay, so this is WHO going on, safety confirmed. But however, there is a debate. Okay, WHO was established in April 7th, 1948. And this day, April 7, is known as World Health Day. It is a specialized agency of United Nations that directs the international health system. It carries on research with many bodies in America and the world to provide better health solutions to people in general. FAO was established in 1945, just after the World War. Objective was to provide food security to the world, all over the world, by improving the agricultural practices, which were, according to the developed nation, were primitive in most of the nations. So इन्हीं सभी के साथ ये ऑर्गेनाइजेशन शुरू हुए थे और तब से ये काम करते आ रहे हैं in their respective field. Okay. Well, conclusion. On the basis of the above discussions, we can conclude that India is looking at present condition. India needs to come out of the reluctance to adopt GM crops. There is a requirement. However, we need to take up the safety and security issues seriously. That means instead of having a fear abnormally, we can conduct pilot tests, test programs, protocols to check whether GM crops have so much of bad effect or not by conducting pilot test and then accept. In this way, we can encourage the farmers of India to come up with some more commercial crops like mustard. And mustard oil, if it is consumed by most parts of India properly, so it can be also used for the purposes of other products. Okay. So now, any doubt with GM crops in India?
Sir, FAO.
FAO is Food and Agricultural Organization. It is a body under the United Nations. United Nations re kichta body tha for different purposes to carry out different program. The work of FAO is to provide food security and improve agricultural practices. तो FAO दुनिया भर जोठी जहां पे भी एग्रीकल्चरल प्रैक्टिसेस होता है वो एडवाइस करता रहता है how the countries can improve their agricultural practices, how they can do better. Like WHO directs the health missions, FAO directs the agriculture and food safety and security missions. Clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now coming to encryption technology. What is encryption technology? We will try to understand. Already I have taught you regarding this when I was teaching you the emerging computer technology. Encryption technology comes out of the root word crypt. Crypt means to hide, lucheva. Okay. So what is encryption? Encryption is the process of coding electronic data into a ciphertext. A ciphertext is a text which cannot be seen anyone else except the users. जिसको आप चाहते हो उसको छोड़कर बाकी कोई उसको देख नहीं सकता. So using the ciphertext, electronic data can be converted into a coded language, and a coded language can be decoded into normal data, seeable data, observable data. So this is how it works. Encryption technology is required for confidentiality of digital data, because digital data, when it is running through the networks, can be easily hacked by any person who is technically an expert. So by creating encryption method, we create a challenge for the hacker or the person who steals data that without the proper authorization, he or she wouldn't be able to read what is there in the data. So encryption is very much useful for the defense services also, crucial for IT systems, communication of commercial markets, जहाँ पे कि heavy transactions होता रहता है, जैसे stock exchange, financial institutions like RBI, etc. A brief understanding on cryptography. What is cryptography? Cryptography is computer encryption-based science. Cryptography, writing hidden texts. This is created by creating a code. This code already we know is called ciphertext, and this ciphertext converts human readable data, human understandable data into another form of data which cannot be read. Okay. Now there are different techniques of encryption. The popular right now is 128-bit encryption. This is an encryption technique that uses 128-bit key to encrypt or decrypt data file. It is one of the most secure encryption methods that uses modern encryption algorithm and techniques. Why 128 encryption is secure? A bit refers to the length of a key. अगर कोई key का length लंबा है, okay, for example, when you go enter into a password or enter a password, they tell you that your key, your password must be minimum 6 letters in size. There should be 6 letters in size. क्यों कहते हैं? Because longer it is difficult to crack. Similarly, when the longer is the encryption key, the difficult it would be for the hacker to crack it. So because the cracker would have to try 2 to the power 128 combinations, 2 to the power 128 combinations, and it will take him time to crack it. So ये hacker without taking the help of a very good computer will not be able to do it. So even with the supercomputers also, it is going to take a lot of time to crack this encryption data. So this is 128 encryption, which is till now the most trusted encryption technique. Now, what is the advantage of encryption technology? It provides confidentiality of data. You don't have to share it with anybody or everybody. You share it with that person whom you want to share with. That is the first benefit. Second benefit is that the key element is security. And how does it work? It works through key encryption. Key encryption uses 2 different keys. One is called as a public key, another called as private key. This we had learned. Private key is with the owner who sends, or the sender's computer. By using that key, he will codify the message into encrypted message and he will send it. Public key is given by the sender's computer to the other computer who that wants to communicate with the sender's computer. The message is forwarded in a coded language from the sender's computer. The receiver's computer decodes the message using the public key along with the private key. The public key is meant for the transfer data and private key is used to decipher it. Private key is moreover the cipher. So even if anyone has stolen the public key, he cannot read your message until you provide the private key. That is why a pair of key named public private pair of keys is used. This key pair is based on prime numbers of long length. This makes the system secure as there are infinite prime numbers available. So there are infinite possibilities of keys available. I hope you have understood how encryption in India is going on. Information Technology Act was amended in 2008. As per the amendment of 2008, it provides for encryption in India under Section 84A of IT Act. As per the Act, the government can determine modes and methods for encryption to secure the use of electronic medium for promotion of e-governance and e-commerce. Government decide करता है कि encryption कैसा रहेगा. Encryption laws or policies in India. At present, in India, there is no clear encryption law. Encryption limits in India are specific encryption limits are provided by various agencies, जैसे RBI. RBI के लिए एक encryption unit दिया जाता है for bank communication. Department of Telecommunication, उनका एक encryption रहता है. Security Exchange Board, that is called as SEBI. SEBI is also has its own private encryption, specific encryption limit. The limits are prescribed by various agencies. जैसे कि RBI के लिए minimum 128 bit encryption चाहिए for all banking transactions. SEBI के लिए 64 to 128 bit for standard. Department of Telecommunication, Telecom, 40 bit for individual. Why so low? Because the government requires access to various types of information to track antisocial element. तो अगर डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ टेलीकम्युनिकेशन का एंक्रिप्शन बढ़ा दिया जाएगा तो गवर्नमेंट को ही खुद दिक्कत होगी टू ट्रैक द इंफॉर्मेशन रिक्वायर्ड फॉर द पर्पजेस. अब कोई चोर चोरी करके भाग रहा होगा, आपको पता होगा उसका कि मोबाइल नंबर IMI क्या है, लेकिन आप उसको फाइंड करने में, लोकेशन फाइंड अप करने में कंप्यूटर्स हेल्प नहीं करेंगे. सो इन दिस वे वी हैव स्पेसिफिक encryption policy for 1 minute. We have specific encryption standards, encryption protocols for different departments in India that keep on operating. Now, getting back to IT Act, here it is like given Section 84 of the IT Act. Section 84A of IT Act was inserted with the amendment of 2008. This allows the central government to empower and prescribe what modes of encryption and internet security will be used in the Indian subcontinent for the various purposes of communication. What is IT Act? It was an act brought in 2000 to check with the subjects of e-commerce and cyber crimes. The law of Information Technology Act is based on UN model of law on electronic commerce, which was prescribed in 1996. उसी को बेस करके IT Act बना हुआ है. अगर आप चाहो IT Act का bare fact, I have the IT Act bare fact, but आपके लिए अभी इतना जरूरी नहीं है. After you complete prelims, main के लिए जब prepare होगे, I will provide you the detailed analysis of IT Act 2000. इसमें क्या अच्छी बात है, क्या weaknesses हैं. Draft Encryption Policy of India. So according to the IT Act 84A, there is a draft of policy which makes it mandatory for every citizen to have all the digital communication for a period of 90 days. Modi-led NDA government has withdrawn it, however. इससे कहा गया था कि every person who is entering into digital realm will be there for 90 days. Okay, इसका मतलब ये है कि आप ऐसा नहीं कि आप Facebook अकाउंट खोल के फिर 3 दिन में जो हरकत करना है करके आप भाग जाओगे. Even if you don't operate your Facebook account, even if you try to delete it, it will not get deleted within 90 days. Okay, so this is a kind of policy. So far, no clear-cut policy has been made. The next area is Parker Solar Probe mission. What do you mean by, acha, any doubt with the encryption? Important points you need to remember: 2-key system, public key, private key. What is public key? What is private key? Encryption कौन कंट्रोल करता है, कौन से एक्ट से बनता है, कौन से लॉ का कौन सा सेक्शन, इतना अगर आपने याद रख लिया, then it is enough. So I hope you shouldn't have any doubts. If you have any, you can always ask. So any doubts?
नहीं sir.
No doubts. Now coming to solar probe mission. This is American solar probe mission. Anyone does know what does it mean by probe satellite? Probe किसे कहते हैं? Whenever you send any rocket or satellite to some other planet or some other celestial body, planet would be very narrow word, दो तरीके से उसको स्टडी किया जाता है. या तो उस चीज के चारों तरफ घूमते रहो, अगर उसके चारों तरफ घूम घूम कर आप फोटोग्राफ लेते हो, उसे कहा जाता है ऑर्बिटर. ORBITER, ऑर्बिटर. जैसे मार्स ऑर्बिटर मिशन, तो इसका काम था मार्स के चारों तरफ घूम घूम कर तस्वीरें खींचना. Another one is called as a probe. Probe means you send one specific thing, specific instrument there for a specific study. It may land on the planet also. So अगर हमने कहा impact probe, IMPACT, impact probe, इसका मतलब है कि ये मशीन मार्स के ऊपर जाकर वहां पे लैंडिंग करेगा, impact करेगा, and it will study. So Parker Solar Probe mission is a NASA-based program. It is a historic mission to the sun, also humanity's first mission to a star. Parker Solar Probe is a part of Living with a Star program, which is managed by NASA at Maryland's Goddard Space Flight Center. It was to be launched in 2018 between July 31st and August 19th. It will move around the year on the sun at a speed of, imagine the speed, 7 lakh kilometers per hour. The speed is enough to reach from Mumbai to Kolkata in just 10 seconds. Why such a mission is being carried? It is carried to understand sun well, because sun and the earth, they are interconnected. Any change in the sun affects the life on the earth. When there is a solar flux, sun से intensity wave निकलता है, इंडिया में drought हो जाता है. So if you are able to understand the sun-earth system, how it affects the life and society, we can study it. The mission will work to find how energy and heat move through the solar corona. Corona is the outer glowing part of the sun. तो वहां पे एनर्जी कैसे मूव करता है, कौन से फॉर्म में मूव करता है, वो स्टडी करेगा. It is also going to accelerate the solar wind and solar energy particles. It will image solar wind and study the magnetic field, plasma and energetic particles. This will be helping India, world actually, not India, the earth, to design its next space mission. तो अपने spacecraft को वो और safe और secure बना सकते हैं, ताकि वो destroy ना हो in the solar wind. For the protection from the sun's heat, Parker will be covered with carbon composite shield. It is a material, carbon composite material, जो कि 1377 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड तक टेम्परेचर को टॉलरेट कर सकता है, which is enough to orbit around the sun and take the cover. Well, with this, it is going to carry on its mission. Some facts regarding sun and solar wind. Sun is the nearest star to the Earth, so it can be studied closely if we plan the mission. After studying about the sun, we will be able to study other stars as well. Sun is the source of heat and light energy for all of us, and sun can make us understand the evolution on the life of Earth. Sun is the source of solar wind. What is solar wind? These are streams of energy which go past Earth at a speed of 500 kilometer per second. And whenever there is a solar wind, there is a serious damage caused to Earth satellites. Earth के चारों तरफ जो सैटेलाइट आते हैं, उनको बहुत डैमेज होता है. इसीलिए स्टडी करना जरूरी है. So effect of space mission on the weather, we'll be able to understand sun's cycle, energy, and we can change the course of our orbit of the satellite. Satellite कैसे घूमेंगे वो हम decide कर सकते हैं. We can increase the lifespan of the satellites by understanding sun, and we can also restrict the damages caused on the onboard electronics. So these are certain areas of discussion that we went on with today. Then speed breeding is an experiment by NASA again. What is this? This was developed by some Australian scientists to grow up wheat crop on the Earth. Australian scientists were inspired from NASA experiment. What did they do? They using continuous light on the wheat. They trigger early reproduction in the plant. मतलब उन्होंने नाइट नहीं दिया. दिस इज कॉल्ड स्पीड ब्रीडिंग टेक्निक. ओके, आप दिन भर उसे लाइट देते चलोगे. ओके, सो दे मॉडिफाइड द ग्रीन हाउसेस. उसमें क्या किया उन लोगों ने? दे इंट्रोड्यूस्ड अल्ट्रावायलेट लाइट. मतलब इन द नाइट ऑल्सो देयर वुड बी सनलाइट लाइक रे, एंड they could produce a high yielding variety of wheat called as DS Faraday, and it could be seen that within very short time they could create generations of plants. They used ultraviolet LED, I hope you know, light emitting diode, जो कि blue color का light देता है, और उसी को use किया गया, and the light were given 22 hours per day. Extended condition. Utility of this technique, you can use it in the cold climatic conditions. जैसे कि अभी winter चल रहा है in some parts of America like Alaska, वहाँ पे अभी छुट्टी है. For 6 months there would be very short day. तो वहाँ पे आप agriculture कर सकते हो with the help of speed breeding technology. Any doubt with speed breeding? No? So if not, whatever you have studied, try to revise it. I will catch you later. Goodbye.